Alright guys, let's just dive right into the plethora of unpopular opinions that I present to you. I mean, I had a ton, and I actually didn't think I had too many unpopular opinions before I started writing them all down, but then once I got them all down, I had a lot, and I had to cut some out of this video just because, I just had so many. But anyway, starting off our list of the most unpopular opinions, we have number one, Triple H, in my opinion, is a fantastic wrestler and should get all the credit he deserves from the WWE. The fans should give that same credit. He gives all the credit he deserves from WWE as one of the greatest of all time, and honestly, the fans should give him that recognition. He is one of the greatest of all time. From an in-ring standpoint, Triple H is up there with a lot of the best, despite what some people want to believe because of all the backstage crap he does, and now he's married into the family and he runs the company. That's all irrelevant, in my opinion. When you look at his in-ring work, you have to think about Triple H the wrestler, and Triple H the wrestler delivers 99.9% of the time. Sure, he's had some flops of matches, and sure, some of his matches have been disappointing, but you know what? He's a great wrestler, and I think a lot of people overlook that because they're so obsessed with what he does with his personal life. Second one for me, Shawn Michaels and Undertaker from WrestleMania 26 is without a doubt better than WrestleMania 25. I mean, I give both matches the same rating, so if you want to say 25 is better, then go right ahead. But, if someone presented me, say, like, which match is better, and they gave me these two matches, I wouldn't even have to think about it. I would totally pick 26. I mean, if 25 is your cup of tea, that's fine, but in my opinion, 26 kind of trimmed the fat that 25 had. So, take that for what you want. Next one, NWO in 2002 sucked. I hated it. It made no sense. I don't know if this one's unpopular. Maybe a lot of people share my belief in this, but the NWO in 2002 made no sense. It was stupid. Having Shawn Michaels come back as like the leader, that really didn't make sense. No one cared about Hall and Nash at this point. Hogan was the only person the fans really cared about, and he was a face. The fans were turning him face, so it didn't make any sense for him to be in a heel group. So the whole thing just kind of flopped and was stupid. WrestleMania 17, in my opinion, will never be the greatest WrestleMania of all time. Top 5, definitely. I put it as number 3. So I don't hate WrestleMania 17. I think it's an amazing WrestleMania. But I mean, from a match quality standpoint, I think you get a better choice with WrestleMania 19. I think that one delivers more. And from like a monumental, larger-than-life standpoint, I would say WrestleMania 3 delivers on that more than WrestleMania 17. So if you want to say 17 is the best of all time, go right ahead. I'm not going to hate on you, but I just don't think it would ever be considered the best WrestleMania of all time. Next one. Now, just listen to the sentence before you hate me. If a wrestler like Sheamus or Orton did what CM Punk did and walked out of his contract, the IWC would not have defended them. And what I mean by that is a lot of people, because of CM Punk's popularity with them, a lot of people don't take into consideration how unprofessional it is to walk out of a contract. I like CM Punk, and I'm sad he left, but if he truly hated coming to work every day, more power to him. I'm sure he's happy at home, and more power to him. Again, I'm happy for the guy. He is doing what he wants now, and he's away from wrestling. If that's what he wants, then let him have what he wants. He doesn't owe the fans anything. However, it is very unprofessional to walk out of a contract that you yourself signed willingly. If someone like Sheamus or Orton, someone who's not as popular with the internet wrestling community, did what CM Punk did, they would be so quick to jump on the fact that walking out of a contract is totally unprofessional. They wouldn't have given them the benefit of the doubt like they did CM Punk, saying like, oh, they probably have all the things they want backstage. And, I think a lot of fans would kind of hate on Orton and Sheamus a little bit more than they did with Punk. So, I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on that. Next one, Owen Hart, in my opinion, was a superior wrestler and a superior talker to Bret Hart. The talker one is kind of obvious, but a lot of people think Bret Hart's a better wrestler. Maybe he is, but in my opinion, I always was more entertained with what Owen did in the ring. I mean, people say, well, why was Owen never WWE champion if he was the better wrestler? Because Owen Hart wrestled for a living. Bret Hart was very passionate about wrestling. He took wrestling seriously. Wrestling was his life. And Owen Hart wrestled to maintain his life. If that's a good way to sum it up. Owen Hart really just wrestled for a living. That's the basis of it. He wrestled because that's the way he earned money. Bret Hart wrestled because it's in his blood, it's his passion, he loves it. I'm not saying Owen Hart doesn't respect wrestling or he doesn't love wrestling. I'm just saying Bret Hart is more passionate about it, and more passion will give you those title shots that Bret Hart had. And he held the title. He's a multi-time champion. I'm not saying Bret Hart's a bad wrestler. I'm just saying he's more passionate than Owen, and in the end, that's what mattered for Bret. Next one, Sting is one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, but he made one of the dumbest moves by not wrestling Taker at WrestleMania 27. What else did TNA have to offer Sting at this point? What did he do past 2011 in TNA? I really can't think of anything too spectacular. I mean, it kind of was just kind of a letdown for a lot of people because obviously if we get Sting and Taker at WrestleMania 31, it might not be all that great. But, Sting and Taker at WrestleMania 27, when Undertaker still was putting out kick-ass matches, even though Undertaker kind of switched to part-time at this point, they still probably could have pulled out a solid to good to even possibly great match. Now they're going to have to ride off the nostalgia of the dream match for if they do a match, in this current year in 2015 or something like that. So, he made a dumb move in my opinion. I mean, the door was wide open for him and he didn't take it. Next one, maybe this is just my age, but the new DX that formed in 2006, it wasn't all that bad. I know people detest it because it wasn't like it was in the Attitude Era, because if it wasn't like it was in the past, it's not good. I will say that DX in the 90s was most likely probably better than this in the 2000s. However, I mean, it would make zero sense, and it would look absolutely stupid. Like, Shawn and Triple H would look absolutely idiotic if they were acting like they were in the 90s when Shawn Michaels is like 41 and Triple H is probably like 38 maybe. Like those are my guessing ages of them in 2006. That's what I'm assuming. No, but like Shawn Michaels and Triple H, like they were grown men with families now. Like they were family men now. And it would make it would just look stupid if they were out, like showing their ass to everyone and like trying to get with every single girl possible. It would just look stupid and just look kind of phony and just like they're 40 years old trying to act like they're 18. Like that would just look stupid. I think they did best with what they had. Them impersonating the McMahons was hilarious, and like some of the stuff they did in a more watered down way, I think it worked for someone their age. So, I mean, if you had them acting like they would in the 90s, they just would have looked stupid. It looked like they would have just been has-beens, just washed up in the past. So, I don't know. I think it was better that way. Next one, ECW is overrated. I don't mean this as in ECW sucked. I know ECW has had some classic matches, and I'm not going to say that this is like the worst promotion ever. They had great matches with Malenko, Guerrero, Jericho, Benoit. I know Jerry Lynn and RVD had their great matches and all that. It's just at some point, ECW starts to become too much, and almost like it isn't wrestling anymore. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a match with weapons and stuff like that, but when you have people like willingly jumping, like basically just jumping off a ledge into a pile of flaming tables, like what is the wrestling portion of that? It's just someone jumping into things. I'm not saying everyone who worked at ECW was a stuntman and they suck ass and all that. I'm not saying that at all, because there are a lot of talented people who worked in ECW. I'm just saying at one point it just starts to become too much, and it just kind of makes it kind of embarrassing to watch. And I know ECW crowds were wild, but at the same time, I don't think it's the greatest promotion ever, like a lot of people. And it is fun sometimes, but when you have these death-defying matches where people are nearly killing themselves, it's like, okay, you can tone it down a little bit, because this isn't wrestling anymore. This is just like watching people just try to kill themselves almost. That's what it seems like. So maybe it's just not my cup of tea. If it's yours, then go right ahead and watch it. Next one for me, the Nexus was doomed to fail from the start. I don't know. Like, for this one, I've touched on it before, but the Nexus to me their initial debut was great, but then it just kind of all spiraled out of control from there. The only person who was remotely over with the crowd was Daniel Bryan, and he got released from the WWE, so they were already out of their strongest, most over wrestler. And you have 7 people in this group, and 7 members of a stable. That's kind of overkill. Like 3 to 5 is the best number for a stable, in my opinion. And, this isn't 7, like, of the greatest wrestlers ever. This is 7 nobodies, basically. I hate to say it like that, but it is. I mean, they all had their time to shine on NXT, but I doubt every single wrestling fan watched NXT. I watched the first season of NXT, and, I was I liked Daniel Bryan, Wade Barrett, and I liked Justin Gabriel. Those were my favorites. And at that point, I barely knew who Daniel Bryan was. I knew he was some sort of, independent wrestler. But to me, it's just like, these aren't people who pose a threat. And sure, they would shelve legends, but when you look at that from a realistic standpoint, and I know you're not supposed to look at wrestling from a realistic standpoint, I understand that. But you shelved, like the group of Nexus, 7 young, hungry wrestlers shelved Ricky Steamboat, a 60-year-old man. It's like, oh wow, that's a great accomplishment. I think they needed to start just shelving a bunch of the younger talent or just of the established stars. And I know people say that the true downfall of Nexus was SummerSlam when Cena beat the Nexus. And you could say that all you want, but to me that was the final nail in the coffin. I mean, basically, there were too many of them. They were too irrelevant. They weren't over. They all looked like freaking... Their outfits were weird. They all looked like Sam from Rocket Power. They just didn't work for me. Next one, Kevin Nash, nowhere near as bad as the YWC makes him out to be. I mean, people act like he's the death of wrestling. And sure, Kevin Nash, of course, he's a Clique member, so everyone hates him because he did some stuff backstage when he was younger. Oh my god, the worst thing ever. But to me, Kevin Nash was, sure, his reign in 95 kind of was underwhelming, kind of sucked. And sure, Kevin Nash isn't the greatest wrestler ever, but for someone who's 7 feet tall, we've seen a lot worse. People acting like he's Khali out there. No way, man. He's had some good matches. I'm not going to deny that. And people act like his WCW run was full of just dud match after dud match. I disagree completely. I think he had some good matches in WCW. I'm not going to say he was the greatest run of any wrestler ever, but it was definitely good. He's nowhere near as bad as people say he is. This next one, I have absolutely no desire to see Stone Cold Steve Austin and CM Punk. I know this is like the #1 dream match for a lot of people, and I'm not saying I don't understand why, because I do understand, but to me, like, this match, if it never ever happens, I am totally going to be fine with it. And it's not going to look like it's going to happen, because Stone Cold, I think he's set on never wrestling again, and CM Punk says he's never wrestling again, so it looks like we're not going to see this match anyway, so I guess this doesn't really matter in the end, but I know a lot of people were clamoring for this match around like WrestleMania 29, WrestleMania 30 time, and to me, it never really clicked. I'm not saying this match would suck, I'm just saying I'm not looking forward to it if it never happened, but, who knows, it could change my mind. Next one, this is more of an observation, but I think a lot of people are kind of blind to it and they don't want to believe it, but if Roman Reigns is booked the same way he is now for like the next year, he will become the next John Cena. I see there's a lot of similarities between Roman Reigns and John Cena, and maybe I'll go more in depth with this because this is a topic I really kind of want to tackle. Roman Reigns is very similar to John Cena, and I could see him getting the John Cena-like push, and his match he had on Raw recently, it was him and Ryback. He had a very similar Cena-style comeback. He got beat up the entire match, and then, sure, he won it by DQ. However, he was able to come back and just kick both guys' asses like they were absolutely, just two jabronis. So, he's getting that John Cena vibe to him, and he's starting to get that unrelatable character and that, very, sure, he's not Cena in the sense that everything's all happy and dancy and rainbowy, but he is starting to get that sensation that, he's just Superman in human form. So, I'm not saying he will be the next John Cena. I'm just saying WWE has got to be careful with. I touched on this one, so I'm just going to say it. Rock and Hogan at WrestleMania 18 is overrated, and their No Way Out match sucked ass. That's it. I'm not going to say anything else. I've also touched on this before, and I don't feel like saying it a lot more. PG is not a problem with WWE. The main problem is the lack of building up new storylines to get people invested, a lack of build up for pay-per-views, and a lot of people, not a lot of people buying it. You kind of have stale people at the top, like John Cena, Sheamus, Randy Orton, people who need kind of reinvigorations to their character. They're not bad wrestlers, but they need something new to them. It is being turned around. They are building new stars. The 3 members of the Shield are definitely going to be new stars. They can push people like Dolph Ziggler and Cesaro, but that's another problem with WWE. They'll just start pushing someone, and then boom, they just like, we don't feel like playing with you anymore. Hogan and Andre from WrestleMania 3 was pretty good in my opinion. I've touched on that too, and that's pretty much it. Hogan and Andre from WrestleMania 3, good match. X-Pac, in my opinion, is one of the best high flyers WWE ever had. People say that Mysterio was the one who brought the high flying to WWE. I disagree. X-Pac was the one who really started the high flying stuff. Sure, you had people who dived off the top rope like Macho Man and Shawn Michaels. However, X-Pac was the one who really made high flying a style in WWE and made it cool again, in my opinion. Say what you will, guys, but you take out Dean Ambrose and honestly, maybe Stephanie McMahon, and John Cena is probably the best talker in WWE right now. He's one of the best. Once he gets serious, like his promo he had over the last 2 weeks of Raw building up to SummerSlam against Brock, some of the best promos I've seen in probably this year. I mean, I guess the only other exception is Bray Wyatt. So Bray Wyatt, Dean Ambrose, and Stephanie might have this, and Triple H too. So of course I'm starting to think of all these names now, but John Cena, I would say maybe top 5, top 10 of some of the best in-ring talkers we have in the wrestling business today, or at least WWE wise. This next one, I don't even know if this is like an unpopular opinion, but in my opinion, the Sensational Sherry version of HBK's song is much better than the current one, so I think he should have stayed with that, but whatever. Also on the topic of Shawn Michaels, he should never come out of retirement. Let the man stay retired. Would it be great to see him wrestle again? Yeah, but you know what? I don't want to see him violate the kayfabe retirement match stipulation. I want him to honor it. Second to last one, so we're almost there. Attitude Era, in my opinion, never should come back. It's a one-time thing. Vince has always wanted kind of like a family-friendly product. There we go. Family-friendly product. He's always wanted that. And the Attitude Era, it was a one-time thing because he was getting his ass kicked by WCW, and he decided to switch to grab an intentions demographic by the throat and grab the 18 to 34 male demographic and just grab them by the throat and just shake all the money out of their pockets. And it worked. I don't know if you take the Attitude Era and just take all the wrestlers in it and just plop them in today's image, it really wouldn't fit. The Attitude Era is it's not going to come back in the year 2014. Even though it's only been, again, 13 removed, because it ended in 2001. Even though it's only 13 years removed from the Attitude Era, in that 13-year span, the business has changed so much. So it won't work. And lastly, again, I think this is more down the middle, not towards the unpopular, but just kind of like a split in thinking. But WWE should never, ever, ever put any sort of spotlight on Chris Benoit. Never. Listen, I know some people are like, oh, maybe later down the road we can get a Hall of Fame spot. No. This man killed his family. Unless there is some sort of evidence that comes out in the future that can prove beyond the shadow of a doubt that Chris Benoit was innocent in this whole thing and this was one giant setup, then WWE can honor him and with a DVD and a Hall of Fame spot. But until the evidence stays and Chris Benoit is the murderer of his wife and his child, he should never ever get any sort of recognition. It's not just the fact that WWE is a publicly traded company and they have an image to take care of. They're going to be glorifying a murderer. What company? You don't see Nickelodeon running specials on Charles Manson. Okay? There are some horrible people in this world. Okay? They shouldn't be glorified. Someone like Eddie Guerrero, who died a hero. Someone who died an honorable death, a tragic death. He died at 38 years old. He should be honored. He beat his addictions. He beat his demons. He was an inspiration to a lot of people. He should be honored. Chris Benoit, yes, he's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I loved Chris Benoit as a wrestler. But as a human being, he is burning in hell because he killed his family. That's not a rational human thing to do. You don't want to kill your family. And you can blame the wrestling business and the chair shots and the concussions. And maybe the cause was his brain was mush. I know that's very reliable. That's very reliable information. And it's probably very likely. But still, he killed his family. You can sugarcoat it all you want. Give all the reasons as to why he did it. It doesn't matter. When you're on trial for murder, you can put all of these explanations in front of everyone. But if they find you guilty, and they find you guilty of murder, your ass is going to jail. And Benoit, as far as we know, is guilty of killing his wife and his son. Never should he ever go into the Hall of Fame. What does that look like? A wrestler should strive to get into the Hall of Fame, but a murderer can get into the Hall of Fame? No, that makes absolutely no sense. And at no point should Benoit ever get into the Hall of Fame. Damn it, this video is 20 minutes. I really didn't want it to be 20 minutes.